Good morning. Today I'm gonna present about the review on related literature. The first slide is the RRL on independent variable. The IV is Paris Agreement, and for the theoretical literature is inside the journal by Charlotte Streck and Maurice von Unger. The Paris Agreement aims to hold global temperatures well below 2 Celsius above pre-industrial levels and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 Celsius degrees. Article 2. This goes beyond what had been agreed in Copenhagen and confirmed in Cancun, namely to recognize the scientific view that the increase in global temperature should be below 2 degrees Celsius. Uh, Paragraph 1 also and paragraph 4, while parties could not agree on a specific date at which global emissions have to peak. The agreement said such a peak must be reached as soon as possible, and that rapid emissions reductions must follow so as to achieve balance between anthropogenic emissions by sources and removals by sinks of greenhouse gases in the second half of this century. Article 4. And also for the empirical literature is inside the book by Judith Blau called The Paris Agreement, Climate Change, Solidarity and Human Rights, stated that in the less than a year after the adoption of the Paris Agreement on November 4, 2016, it became an international treaty, in fact, a treaty with unprecedented international support. Just note again, the COP22 conference in Marrakesh began just 2 days later on November 6. The cause global warming is primarily carbon dioxide, which makes up most most of the greenhouse gases, or GHGs, that trap heat in the atmosphere, warming the earth and the oceans. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct of the burning of fossil fuels, primarily primarily coal, oil, and natural gas, which is thrown in the atmosphere. As burned, it is not as if carbon dioxide somehow disappears. On the contrary, it remains in the atmosphere for a very long time, leaving trace up to 1,000 years. And the second is the RL on independent variable. The DV or dependent variable is US dealing climate change under Trump administration. For the theoretical literature itself, inside the journal by Ija Richard Pavone stated that the election of the Republican Donald Donald J. Trump as U.S. president created discomfort amongst environmentalists. Indeed, the U.S. president, as well as the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, Scott Pruitt, are climate change skeptics and adhere to the position of the climate change counter movement that denies the linkage between global warming and human activities. Opposing the dominant anthropogenic global warming position, Trump's attitude towards climate change is already quite clear. It is not a priority of the U.S. foreign policy, and domestic environmental policy must not burden the U.S. economy and domestic jobs in an undue manner, for instance, through higher electricity prices and higher taxes. Actually, he considers the environmental regulations adopted by the former administration as being excessive and also being the main cause of the job losses in the coal mining and oil and gas industries. And for this last slide or third slide is RRL on both independent and dependent variable. For the theoretical literature itself, from the journal by Bob Quart and Alex Bowen stated that Trump administration's decisions to withdraw the United States from the Paris Agreement conclude that it would not affect the development of low carbon technologies, but long-term goals and international cooperation on climate change will be affected by budget cuts in American climate change research and the cancellation of donations from the Multilateral Environmental Fund of the US. Other researchers have been more pessimistic, suggesting that the United States withdrawal would increase the costs of other countries' mitigation efforts. Eurplanin and Van de Graaff 2017 argued that withdrawal would not lead to a significant rise in domestic emissions or weaken support by other countries for the Paris Agreement, but could have an adverse effect on the flow of climate finance. And for the empirical literature itself, the journal by Chang Yongxianga, Chao Qingxiana, Cheng Xiuhong, Wang Lei stated that the withdrawal of the US from the Paris Agreement was expected. During the early stages of the US election, Trump had claimed several times that the climate change is a hoax. As a publicity stunt, he promised to withdraw the US from the Paris Agreement. Once he took the office of the president, Trump proposed the America First Energy Plan, in which he intends to re-stimulate the U.S. fossil energy industry. Furthermore, he completely dismantled the climate policies made by the former U.S. President Obama. Trump canceled the Clean Power Plan and issued the executive order on promoting energy in independence and economic growth. He drastically cut the federal budget on the climate change policies and researches. He also appointed anti-climate officials to highly important positions. Collectively, these activities signaled the withdrawal of the US from the Paris Agreement. Thank you.